All right, let's dive into a book that's as controversial as it is influential. Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. This one gets people talking.
So, what's this book really all about? Well, it boils down to this. Power isn't just about who's strongest. No, it's a game, a really complex social game. It's all about strategy, psychology, and, like this quote says, perception. Seriously, how people see you can matter a whole lot more than what's actually going on.
And that's the million-dollar question, right? If power is a game, what are the rules? You know, the ones nobody writes down. Greene says these rules have been used for centuries, usually behind closed doors. So, you ready? We're going to pull back the curtain and look at a few of them.
Okay, first up, mastering your own image. This is what Greene calls the inner game of power. And look, the first step in this whole game isn't actually about other people. It's about mastering you, and specifically, the image you put out there.
Okay, check out Law 4. Always say less than necessary. This is basically about using silence as a weapon. Think about it. When you're quiet, it makes other people uncomfortable. They feel this need to fill the silence. And when they do, they often spill the beans about their own plans and weaknesses. Meanwhile, you just sit there, looking calm and in control. So when you do decide to speak, bam, your words have so much more impact. And you can see this play out in history, clear as day. Take two guys. First, you've got this Roman general, Coriolanus, absolute beast on the battlefield, but he couldn't keep his mouth shut. He talked and talked, insulted everyone, and ended up getting himself exiled. Then you have King Louis XIV of France. His ministers would be in front of him, arguing, making their case, and his only reply would be this quiet, "I shall see." Can you imagine how terrifying that was? It kept everyone on their toes and made his power absolute.
But here's where it gets kind of tricky. Mastering your image isn't always about puffing out your chest and looking strong. No, one of the wildest ideas in this book is that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to look weak. It's all about doing the last thing anyone would expect. Let me tell you about the empty fort strategy. This is a wild story from ancient China about a guy named General Zhuge Liang. Okay, picture this. A massive army, 150,000 soldiers, is about to crush your town. And you've got like 100 guys. It's over. So what's the plan? You order the gates thrown wide open, tell your tiny handful of soldiers to go hide, and then you just climb up on the city wall and calmly start playing an instrument. It sounds completely nuts, right?
Well, here's the genius of it. The enemy general, a guy named Sima Yi, was a brilliant strategist himself. He sees this bizarre scene and his brain just short-circuits. He's thinking, no way, this has to be a trap. Nobody would be this calm unless they had a massive ambush waiting for me. He couldn't trust his own eyes. Instead, he trusted his fear of the general's reputation. So Liang played his opponent's own mind games against him and won the whole battle without lifting a finger. All right, so once you've got a handle on your own image, the game shifts. Now we're talking about the outer game, actively influencing people and steering events where you want them to go.
This leads us to a big one, Law 9. And the idea is really simple, but it's so powerful. You know how when you argue with someone, they just dig their heels in? You're basically never going to change their mind with just words. But if you show them, well, you can't really argue with a demonstration.
Okay, here's a perfect story for this. The Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev is giving a huge speech, going on and on about how terrible Stalin's crimes were. And then, out of the crowd, someone yells, "So why didn't you stop him?"
Now, instead of getting into a debate, Khrushchev just barks back, "Who said that?" And the whole room just freezes. Total, dead silence. After a few tense seconds, he says quietly, "Now you know why I didn't stop him." Boom. In that one moment, everyone in that room felt the exact same paralyzing fear that gripped the entire country under Stalin. He didn't have to argue. He made them feel the answer.
Another major strategy is making people need you. You want to become indispensable. If the people in charge depend on you, guess what? They can't get rid of you. It's like Michelangelo's patrons. They knew they'd never find another Michelangelo. Or this great story about King Louis XI's astrologer, who told the king he'd die just 3 days before the king himself did. Smart move, right? The whole point is to have a skill that's so rare, so valuable, that your boss becomes your hostage. They can't afford to lose you.
All right, our last big idea here is all about perspective. Greene's point is that real power isn't about the next move, it's about seeing the whole chessboard. It belongs to people who can plan 5, 10 steps ahead of everyone else.
The story of how Jay Gould took over Western Union is just a masterclass in this. Here's how he did it. He set up a pattern.
First, he created a rival company, and Western Union paid a high price to buy him out. Then he did it again, started another company. They bought him out. So the third time he comes around, they're thinking, it's this guy again. We know the drill. They were completely relaxed. But this time, Gould wasn't looking for a paycheck. He was playing for the whole shebang. He used their expectations against them, lulled them into a false sense of security, and then, bam, he staged a takeover and snatched the entire company.
And why does a strategy like that work? Because, let's be honest, most of us are stuck in the now. We react to what's right in front of our face. The long-term planner knows this. They know you're busy trying to win today's little battle, while they're positioning their pieces to win the entire war.
But there's a huge warning that comes with this. Winning isn't everything. You've got to know when to quit while you're ahead. I mean, look at Cyrus the Great. He just kept winning and winning until he thought he was invincible. He got arrogant, stopped listening to advice, and pushed his luck one too many times. And in the end, it got him killed. He was so focused on the next victory, he couldn't see his own downfall coming.
So after all these stories of deception, mind games, and crazy strategies, what's the big takeaway? What's the one idea that ties all 48 of these laws together?
It comes down to this. Real, lasting power isn't about being the loudest or the most aggressive person in the room. It's about control. It's about patience. It's about being indirect. It's really about understanding what makes people tick and seeing the world less as a place with right and wrong and more like a giant chessboard where every single move matters.
And that leaves us with one last question for you to think about. Look, whether you read these laws as a how-to manual or as a defense guide, you can't deny they make you see the world in a new light. So as you go about your week, just look around and ask yourself, in your world, who's really pulling the strings?